Alright, welcome back to Unit 2, Lesson 3. We're going to be talking about data processing here today, so we're going to be building off of what we learned in the previous class here. We're going to be talking about text processing, going to go over a couple commands like sed and awk, and how to edit text files finally in the command line. So you may have been wondering how we do this. So we're going to be going over these three commands here. These are all three of these are very important commands, and so we'll learn how to use those. The first one here is a program called sed. Sed can do a lot of different things. It's a text manipulation program, but its main purpose, or one of the main things that people use it for, is actually text replacement. Okay, so if I come to my Linux VM here, I'm going to make a file. Let's actually use the existing file, my file. So I can go ahead and cat out my file. So it says my name is Matt, my name is Bob, my name is Sally. So maybe what we could do is replace the word is with the word, I don't know, let's just use was. So here's the syntax that we're going to be using here. So we're going to run the program sed, and in order to do this, we're going to append it with an S, and I'm going to type this out, but we'll replace it here. So we're going to type in the old value first, and we type in the new value that we want. And we always close it with a trailing slash there. So it's sed, and then S for text replacement. We put in our old value, and then we put in our new value. So I'm going to do Control C. Remember that cancels our command, it does not run it. So I run sed S slash, the old value is S, or IS. Let's replace it with was, and then we're going to specify the name of the file. So if I type in my file.txt, now it says my name was Matt. But if we actually cat out the contents of my file, you'll notice it stays the same. So my name is Matt, my name is Bob, my name is Sally. So why didn't it overwrite the file? So sed is a program. It will manipulate the file, so it's pretty much going to output it out here, but it's not going to overwrite the existing file. If we wanted to overwrite the existing file, which is generally not a good idea, well, let me first show you how to write it to a new file. So I can say output. So remember, this is a redirect to a new file, and I'm going to call it my_file2.txt. So instead of sending this output to the screen, it's actually going to send it to this file here. So if I cat out my file2.txt, now we've got a new file that says my name was Bob, my name was Bob, Matt, Sally, so on and so on. So sed does not overwrite files. So when is this actually useful? Sometimes you might have multiple log files across different systems, and they use different words. So maybe like one of the logs uses incorrect, and then one log uses failed. And in order to make search a lot easier on different systems, you might change all the incorrect instances to failed. So for that, you could type in sed s slash incorrect, and you could replace it with failed, and then super secure log. This file doesn't exist. And then we would generally want to output it to a new file. So we could say super secure new or something like that. And that way we can save the contents to a new file. Okay, let's go on to the next program. This one is awk. Awk is a very powerful program. I'm going to go over the basic usage for this program. This is one I use on a daily basis, so I would definitely learn how to use this program. So we're going to use a program called auth.log. This is just a copy of a log file on the system. So if I type in head, just to get a preview of the file, for auth.log, we get the top 10 lines of the file. So you'll notice the file is kind of broken into certain groups, and let me just shrink the text there just a little bit. So I'll run it again, head auth.log. So each line is broken up into different pieces of data. So you'll notice we have the date and the time, and we've got the name of the computer. And then this gives us like a process and different pieces of information. So let's jump back to the slide here. So awk, we can use this program for data extraction. Let's say we wanted to get just a certain piece of information from a file. Now this syntax looks a little confusing, but let me break it down here for you. So awk is the program, but we need a way to break down the file into like fields. How do we want the file or the program awk to break down each line? If we jump back to this file, the auth.log, we could split it based on spaces. So we've got spaces here. We've also got colons here. We've got a colon there. Pretty much we can choose whatever character we want to split it based on. So we can pretty much chop the line into different pieces that we want there. Okay, and then the next part, we're going to specify the field. So if we wanted to split it based on commas, we're going to put a dash, capital F, and a comma. There's no space between the field identifier and the dash F. And then after we specify what field, we want to print what data we want from that field. Okay, this might make a little bit more sense after an example here. Let's do a couple examples here so this makes sense. So let's say we wanted to use awk to split this file based on colons here. So you'll see a colon there, colon there, colon there, and colon here and there. Let's just see what happens. So I type in awk. Let's split the file or each line based on colons. And then I'm going to type in print. And let's say we want to print out the first field. Type in $1. And I close the curly braces in a single quote. And then I need to specify the file that I want to search for. So auth.log. So what did that just do? Doesn't really look super useful right now. Again, let me go ahead and head out the top of the log file here. So if we look here at the log file, it took everything in the, it took everything before the first colon there. So that is field 1. And then the colon says, that's field 1, split, field 2, split, field 3, split, so on and so on. Field 4, split, field 5. So we can choose which parts of the data we want. So if we wanted just this data, what would we do? So this would be field 1, split, field 2, split, field 3. So the command for that would be awk, and then we would specify a colon as the field separator, and then we type in print field 3. And then we'd specify the file name that we want to do that for. Now this isn't super useful. You'll notice we're not really splitting the file in a very logical location. Let's go ahead and preview the file again. So in my opinion, it looks like this file would best be split up by spaces here. This way, we could get the date, the name of the computer, processes, different things like that. Let's try this here. So I'm going to split it based on spaces. So to do spaces, I actually have to type in a double quote, space, double quote. And there's no space between the first double quote and the F. So there's one space there. That signifies I want to use a space as my field separator. So now I'm going to do print. Now let's see which fields we'd want. So this is the first field, space, second field, space, third field, space, fourth field, and so on and so on. So let's say I want everything here. I want the date. So I would do field 1, 2, and 3. So we can actually do that. We'll do field 1, comma, field 2, and field 3. I'll close off the print statement there, and I type in the name of the file, auth.log. Cool, so we get the dates. So we printed out the first 3 fields there. So let's head out the file again. Now what if I wanted additional information? Let's say I wanted this right here, the user that's running it. So I could say here's field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So let's do field 11. And then you'll notice we get the time, and then we get the user. So this is actually a file that tells us what user is executing what command at a certain time. Now how can we combine this with one of those previous commands that we used, using pipe? So if I run awk, and I want to search for everything that has the root user, remember this is the output. I want to take this output and have it become the input of the next command. So I can search through this using grep, and I'm going to look for root. So if we do that, it highlights every line that has the word root in it. Now what if I wanted to count how many times that happened? I could pipe that again into word count -L, and that says there are 99 instances in this file where root exists. So I could output each of these to different files. So if I wanted to get just a list of the times root was logging on, I could do this, and then I could also redirect it to a new file. So I could call it root logs.log or something like that. I can cat out root logs, and I've got a backup of just that manipulated text there. This does take a little bit of practice, so feel free to Google, rewatch the video a couple times. It does take a little bit of getting used to, so try to find some files, maybe add some files, make some random files on your machine, and then you should be able to use awk to manipulate that data. Okay, so the final part that we're going to go over today is text editing. How do we do this? So in Windows, there's a program called Notepad. I think we're all familiar with this. This is a text editor. The reason we want to use a text editor and not a word processor like Microsoft Word is a Notepad keeps each character the same column width as every other character. It also doesn't use any special formatting, so it's just the text and nothing more than that. So on Mac, there's also another text editor. It's a basic text viewer. On Linux, there are a couple very popular programs. So you may have heard of Emacs. Vim is going to be a popular one. Today we're going to be going over Nano. Nano is probably the easiest of the bunch to use, so we're going to use that. So far we've just used file preview commands. So remember cat myfile.txt. What if I want to open this file and edit it? So instead of using cat, I can run nano, which is the name of the text editor. And I type in file.txt. And the second I hit enter, it's going to bring me to a new screen. So now we are in a text editor. Looks a little different than what we're used to right now. So I can use the arrow keys to go up and down. And let's go ahead and add a new line to the end here. So we can say, hello world, this is me using Nano. And we can hit enter to add a new line. This is a new line. And then test, test, test. So we can keep adding stuff to here. Now when I want to save, you'll notice there are a lot of options here on the bottom of the screen. We're going to want to use Control-X to exit. Now if we made any changes, it's going to ask us, do we want to save those changes? So on your keyboard, you're going to hold Control, so Control, and then just tap X one time. Control-X. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to save the modified buffer? That's a fancy way of saying, do you want to save the file? You can just type in Y if you do want to save it, or N for no if you don't want to save it. I'm going to hit Y. And then it says file name to write to. You can generally just hit enter because it's going to leave it the default file name. If you wanted to change the file name or create another file, so if you wanted to make it file 3, you can do that. I'm going to leave it default because we want to change the original file. I'm going to hit enter. Now if I cat out my file.txt, you'll notice we have a new text file and we've been able to edit it. So I can go into nano, open up auth.log. I can go down here, and let's say we wanted to change this to June 16th. I can save that with Control X, Y for yes, and then enter to save. And then if I want to cat out auth.log, the file's going to be a little bit too big. Let's actually try something. Let's cat out auth.log, and then let's grep for the search term 16. And you'll notice that's where our change was made. I hope this was useful for you. We're using a lot of different programs. We're piping them into each other. All of these programs are useful together. By themselves, they're also useful. But the real power of Linux comes when we can actually utilize multiple commands together that build off of each other so we can get the data we're really looking for. For the next class, we're going to keep building off of Linux, getting into more advanced stuff, so stay tuned and we'll get into Unit 3 next time.